Why do people fall in love with you? Is it your looks, your charm, your clever words, your possessions? No, not really. Those things may draw attention. They may spark desire for a moment, but they cannot hold love. And yet, people spend lifetimes polishing their surfaces, buying new clothes, building new images, chasing new achievements, believing this is what makes them lovable. But here is the puzzle. All those things fade. Looks change, charm wears thin, possessions break, and still, love endures. Or it doesn't. So, what, then, is the true reason someone falls in love with you? Most people do not know. They confuse attraction with love. Attraction is quick, bright, intoxicating. It flares like a match. But love is not a match. It is a fire. And to keep a fire alive requires more than a spark. People imagine that love is about finding someone who completes them, who fills their emptiness, who makes them whole. But that is not love, that is dependence. It is not about being completed, but about being reminded. Love is a recognition, not a transaction. And when it is real, it flows not from appearance or wealth, but from something much deeper. Think of all the false beliefs about love. Some say it is about beauty, and yet beauty fades or grows ordinary once you have seen it enough. Some say it is about wealth, but if wealth were enough, the richest would never divorce. Some say it is about charm, wit, or power. But those who chase only these discover that admiration is not the same as love. No, these things are costumes. They may catch the eye, but they do not capture the heart. If love endures, it must be for something beyond these fragile illusions. Have you noticed how quickly infatuation dies? You meet someone, you are dazzled by their surface, the way they speak, the way they move, the way they look. For a time, you believe this is love. But months pass, and suddenly the shine fades. The same beauty, the same charm, it no longer feels enough. Why? Because the costume cannot feed the soul. Infatuation withers when it discovers there is no depth beneath the mask. And so relationships built only on appearances collapse, while those rooted in something deeper grow stronger with time. Which begs the question, what is that deeper thing? There are, in fact, only 2 reasons a person truly falls in love with you. Not 10, not 100. 2. But before I reveal them, I want you to see why this is so important. If you know these 2 reasons, you will stop wasting your energy on masks. You will stop exhausting yourself trying to be impressive. You will discover that the way to attract real love is not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more fully yourself. The reasons are simple, but they're not superficial. And once you see them, you will never see love the same way again. Let us begin with the first. People fall in love with you when you awaken life within them. Think about it. So many people are half asleep. They go through their routines. They drag themselves through days, weighed down by duties, fears, expectations. Then suddenly, someone appears, and in their presence, the world feels brighter. They laugh again. They feel curious again. They sense possibility again. This is not because that person gave them life, but because they reminded them of it. To fall in love is, at its core, to feel alive. And when you embody that aliveness, others cannot help but be drawn to it. This aliveness does not mean constant excitement or reckless adventure. It means presence. When you are truly present, fully engaged in the moment, you radiate a kind of energy that wakes others up. A child at play has this energy. A musician lost in music has it. A lover laughing without self-consciousness has it. When you embody this, you become magnetic. Not because you are performing, but because you are alive, and aliveness is contagious. That is the first reason. People fall in love with you because you make them feel more alive than they did before they met you. But aliveness alone cannot sustain love. Fire that burns too hot consumes itself quickly. This is why so many relationships built on passion alone collapse. The spark was real, but it burned out. which leads us to the second reason, the deeper one. People fall in love with you when they feel at home with you, when they can set down the heavy armor they carry through the world, when they do not need to impress, to perform, to guard. In your presence, they can simply exist. This is rare, for most people are always acting, always protecting. But with you, they rest. To feel at home is the rarest gift. Think of it, a place where you are not judged, not measured, not compared, where your flaws do not make you unworthy, and your wounds do not make you unwelcome. When someone feels this with you, they fall in love not with an illusion, but with the freedom you offer. You are no longer just a person, they see you as a sanctuary. And what greater love can there be than to find in another a place of rest? This is the second reason. People fall in love because with you, they feel home. Now see the beauty of this. One reason is fire, aliveness. The other is shelter, home. Each is incomplete. Aliveness without home burns out, exhausting itself in passion. Home without aliveness becomes dull, fading into comfort without spark. But together, they create the balance of true love, alive, yet safe, excited, yet grounded. In your presence, another feels both awakened and at peace. That is why they stay. That is why they return. That is why they love. Not because of your beauty, your wealth, your cleverness, but because you remind them of life and because you give them rest. But here is the challenge. Most of us confuse the two reasons. We think if we are exciting enough, others will stay forever. Or we think if we are comforting enough, we will never be left. Yet love is not sustained by one side alone. Passion alone is like a storm, thrilling, but destructive. Safety alone is like still water, calm, but stagnant. Love requires the dance between fire and home, between awakening and rest. And when you embody both, people fall in love with you, not as an escape, but as a return to something profoundly human. Now, notice how the illusions of love try to imitate these two reasons. Beauty tries to mimic aliveness. Wealth tries to mimic home. But both fail. Beauty may excite, but without depth, the flame dies. Wealth may offer shelter, but without warmth, it feels like a prison. The real aliveness is not found in appearance, but in presence. And the real home is not found in possessions, but in acceptance. Do you see? The world sells us substitutes, but love is not bought or staged, it is lived. And only those who dare to be fully alive and deeply accepting embody it. Think of the times you fell in love. Was it because someone wore a certain jacket or drove a certain car? No, it was the way they laughed without restraint, the way you could sit in silence without discomfort, the way you forgot to check the time when you were with them. That is aliveness. That is home. And often, we do not even realize why we are drawn to someone until later. We say, I don't know what it is about them, but I just feel good around them. That is the secret, aliveness and home. Let us look deeper at aliveness. To awaken aliveness in others, you must first awaken it in yourself. You cannot inspire vitality if you are numb to life. This does not mean constant joy, it means openness. The willingness to laugh, to cry, to dance, to stumble, to risk. Aliveness is contagious because it is honest. When you live without constantly editing yourself, you give others permission to do the same. And suddenly, they fall not for your performance, but for the life that flows through you. You remind them of something they had forgotten, that to be alive is enough. Now look at home. To create home for others, you must first be at home with yourself. If you reject your own flaws, you will reject them in others. If you are always judging yourself, you will judge them too. But when you learn to sit with your own humanity, your fears, your wounds, your imperfections, you create a space where others can rest in theirs. That is why the most lovable people are not the most perfect, but the most real. They do not demand masks because they do not wear one themselves. Their presence whispers, "Here, you are safe." So, you see, the two reasons people fall in love with you are not tricks you can perform. They are not techniques to master. They are reflections of your own relationship with life. If you are alive in yourself, you awaken others. If you are at home in yourself, you shelter others. That is the alchemy, and it cannot be faked for long. You cannot pretend to be alive while dead inside. You cannot pretend to be safe while judging yourself. The work is always inward first, and when you embody it, love flows outward without effort. A young man once asked his teacher, "How do I make people love me?" The teacher replied, "Stop trying. Be fully alive, and they will be drawn to your light. Be fully at peace with yourself, and they will rest in your shade. That is all." The young man frowned. "But what if I fail?" The teacher smiled. "Then you will have lived. And one who has truly lived, one who has truly accepted himself, cannot be unloved, perhaps not by all, but by those who matter." The young man understood. Consider your own relationships. The ones that failed, did they lack one of the two reasons? Perhaps there was fire, passion, excitement, but no home, no peace. Eventually, exhaustion set in, or perhaps there was safety, companionship, routine, but no spark, no vitality. Eventually, boredom crept in. Without both, love struggles to breathe. But when both exist, even imperfectly, you find a rhythm. You fight and laugh, you stumble and grow, but always you return, because the one you love makes you feel alive and makes you feel safe. And that is what keeps hearts tethered beyond time and circumstance. Do not misunderstand me. This is not about pleasing others or bending yourself to fit their needs. It is about embodying your own fullness. If you chase only to excite, you will exhaust yourself. If you chase only to comfort, you will smother yourself. But when you live honestly, when you allow both your fire and your calm to shine, others will naturally fall in love, not because you sought their approval, but because you became a mirror of their own deepest longing. For what every soul longs for is the same: to feel alive and to feel at home. And here lies the paradox. Love is not found by seeking it. It is found by embodying it. People fall in love with you not when you try to impress them, but when you stop trying. Not when you are perfect, but when you are real. Not when you hide your wounds, but when you allow them to be seen. For in your imperfection, others recognize themselves. In your vitality, they remember life. In your acceptance, they remember peace. And so they fall not for an illusion, but for the truth you carry. And truth, unlike illusion, can last. This is why love often surprises us. We think we know what we want, this type, that quality, this appearance. But then we fall for someone who does not match the list at all. Why? Because they give us these two things. They make us feel alive, and they make us feel safe. Everything else is secondary. The list was only the mind's illusion. The heart knows better. And when the heart recognizes its home, it does not ask, "Do they fit my checklist?" It simply says, "Yes, here." That is love. Not logic, but recognition. So, if you wish to be loved, do not chase love. Chase aliveness. Chase wholeness. Live fully so that your very being awakens others. Rest deeply in yourself so that your presence is home for others. This is not about strategy, it is about sincerity. For sincerity cannot be faked. And when you are sincere, when you are alive and at peace, people cannot help but be drawn to you. They may not even understand why. They will simply say, "I feel different around you. I feel like myself." And that, my friend, is the highest form of love. Notice how this changes the way you see relationships. Instead of asking, "Do they love me?" You begin to ask, do I embody aliveness and home? Instead of asking, why don't they stay? You ask, am I alive with myself? Am I at home in myself? For others cannot give you what you do not give yourself. And so, the search for love is always the search for authenticity. Be alive in your own soul, be at peace in your own skin, and love will come, not as conquest, but as recognition, not as a performance, but as a meeting. The mystery is this: you cannot force someone to fall in love with you, but you can live in such a way that when the right soul meets you, they recognize themselves in you. They feel your fire and their own ignites. They feel your calm and their own settles. They fall not into you, but into themselves through you. That is the miracle. Love is not possession, but reflection. And when you understand this, you no longer chase desperately. You simply live alive. At peace, and love arrives when it must, as surely as dawn follows night. So remember, people fall in love with you for only two reasons. You make them feel alive. You make them feel at home. That is all. Not beauty, not wealth, not power, not status. Those things may decorate love, but they do not create it. What creates love is your presence, fiery and calm, alive and safe. Be that, and you will never need to chase love. It will come again and again to those who recognize in you what they have long been seeking. Aliveness, home, the two halves of love's eternal truth.